What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Network's very own fantasy football huddle. Today, we get into all the startups and sit-ems that we can get for week 6. This episode, we're talking about the running backs. A little bit later on today, we're going to be talking about the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. We're going to get into some defenses and kickers as well. Later on in the week, a little bit, probably Friday morning, we're going to be getting into the sleepers this week. And then Saturday, we're going to start discussing some of those trending up and trending down players as well. Thank you all. Thank you to all of y'all that have commented on the videos, giving me some great suggestions recently. And of course, all the love and support is extremely helpful. So make sure you smash that like button and hit that subscriptions bar if you're new to the channel so you don't miss a beat, so you can always get that leg up on those idiots in your fantasy football league. Now, getting into the waiver or into the startums and sit-ems for today, of course, we are going to be talking about the must-starts first and foremost. The must-start players are the players that, regardless of matchup, because of their volume, because of their talent, it's going to keep them in your starting lineup. We're going to be talking about those players first and foremost today, starting off with Jonathan Taylor. Of course, you got Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Kyron Williams, Quinshon Judkins, Saquon Barkley, and James Cook. Now, those are going to be most of your set it and forget it kind of players, your must start kind of players. Those players are the ones that are going to be the ones that you really want to represent in your fantasy football league. Like I said, no matter what the matchup is, you're never going to really consider sitting them unless they take an injury. So that's going to do it for the start or for the guaranteed starts today. We're not going to spend much time talking about those when it comes to their specific matchups, just because we know we're putting them into our starting lineups. Now, we're going matchup by matchup today, as we always like to do. Now, getting into that, we're starting off with the very first game, which is Thursday Night Football, which is tonight's Thursday Night Football game. You're looking at the Giants taking on the Philadelphia Eagles in New York. You're looking at Saquon's return to New York. He's already done it once, but you know Saquon, he's always on his best behavior when he comes back to the New York Giants. And as we discussed earlier, Saquon Barkley is going to be a must start. So we're not even really going to talk about him today. We are going to be talking about Cam Scatterbo, who's going to be a start for you today. He's captivating with his heavy passing game involvement. And he is the primary goal line target as well. He's getting in fourth in goal line carries. He's getting in red zone carries. And the Eagles have struggled against pass catching running backs this season. They've allowed running backs to score touchdown in 3 straight games. Cam Scatterbo is going to be a solid start for you this week. On the other end, Tyrone Tracy, if he is available, things are trending like he's going to be playing this week. I feel like Cam Scatterbo has created a clear role in this offense. That Tyrone Tracy, he's lost his job at this point unless Cam Scatterbo takes an injury. So we're not trusting Tyrone Tracy. We're going to keep him sitting on the bench today. Now, that's pretty much going to do it for the running backs. Today's episode is going to be nice and kind of quick and easy for you guys. Just discussing those running backs, getting that mind working early in the morning for y'all. And then we're going to get heavy hitter on the quarterbacks and all the pass catchers a little bit later on in today's episode as well, like I said. Now, of course, with the Philadelphia Eagles, outside of Saquon Barkley, there's not going to be many people to start there. So you're going to be starting Saquon Barkley. You're going to be starting Cam Scatterbo. Everybody else is going to be a sit when it comes to the running back position in this game. Next game is going to be the game in London, the Denver Broncos taking on the New York Jets. And I do apologize to the fans in London for having to watch the New York Jets yet again. It's a terrible situation, but they are getting American football, which is an amazing time for that country. The NFL always has a blast when they come out to London. This week, like I said, we got the Denver Broncos taking on the Jets. The Jets are the de facto home team there. You're looking at Breece Hall being an obvious start for you in this. He's a solid start. Isaiah Davis has not earned enough volume just quite yet to really just to merit any opportunity in your fantasy football lineup at this current moment. Keep him on the bench. Now, he is a decent stash, a decent handcuff option. You are looking at Breece Hall potentially getting moved before the trade deadline. So Isaiah Davis, not going to be mad at you for having him on your roster, but do not have him in your starting lineup. Now you're looking at on the Denver Broncos side of things, J.K. Dobbins is going to be a flex with upside. I think he's really mostly going to be a running back 2 for you, is the best way that I can describe it for you this week. But if you have better options for you, of course, put J.K. Dobbins into your flex position. You're going to be more than happy with it. He's got extreme upside. He's got running back 2 upside. So I like J.K. Dobbins as my running back 2, running back 3 this week. R.J. Harvey, on the other hand, he's coming off that breakout game a couple weeks ago. He hasn't really gotten much going last week. You're looking at R.J. Harvey. They do have a decent matchup with the New York Jets, who have struggled against the run in the outside, the way that the Denver Broncos like to attack with R.J. Harvey. So you're looking at R.J. Harvey being at least a shaky flex. I feel like if RJ Harvey doesn't get into the end zone, he's going to have a disappointing day for you in your fantasy football roster. So if you have better options, I would put them into your lineup for you this week. Now, moving into those actual, like the early Sunday games, that 1 p.m. Eastern slate, that 11 a.m. slate, if you're from Colorado with me, it's going to be that early morning slate that we get where Red Zone first gets kicked off. Starting off with that Cleveland versus Pittsburgh game. Cleveland versus Pittsburgh. Of course, we got Quinshon Judkins, who's going to be a must start in this game. So you're not going to really be talking about Quinshon Judkins. He's getting into your lineup. Now, Jaylen Warren looks like he is going to be playing this week. Now, I do believe Jaylen Warren, he's going to come back, and they're not necessarily going to just give him the keys to the entire offense. You're looking at Kenneth Gainwell playing decently enough over these past few weeks that Kenneth Gainwell merited some starting ability, some playing ability in this offense. I don't think it's going to eat terribly into Jaylen Warren's production, but you're looking at Kenneth Gainwell at least deserving a little bit of a chance off of what he's proven over these past few weeks while Jaylen Warren was out. Now, you are looking at the Cleveland Browns being one of the worst, if not the worst, matchup for running backs this week. So I do want to temper my expectations when it comes to Jaylen Warren. He's a flex for me with volume, most likely than anything, but you're going to be starting him if you have to. Most of you drafted Jaylen Warren. If you're like me, you drafted Jaylen Warren to be your number 2 running back, maybe your flex running back. So you're looking at Jaylen Warren being somebody that gives you a safe PPR floor. He should see enough volume in this neutral matchup to be a viable play. Like I said, I am just going to temper my expectations with him just because the Cleveland Browns do tend to be one of the worst matchups, if not the worst matchup for your running back in your fantasy football lineup. Now, other than that, like I said, Kenneth Gainwell, we're going to be sitting him if possible this week. If you're very, very desperate, Kenneth Gainwell could, of course, it's the NFL any given Sunday. He could bust off for a big run, a big touchdown at any point in the game. But you're looking at Kenneth Gainwell with game script, with Jaylen Warren returning, not necessarily getting enough volume to merit starting in your fantasy football lineup this week. Now, moving on, we're going to be talking about that Arizona-Indianapolis game. Arizona-Indianapolis is going to be kind of easy to go through simply because, like I said, we've already got Jonathan Taylor at your must-start position. You got Michael Carter, who I think is going to be the starting running back of this week. He was going into last week as a starting running back, but Amari Demercado got a lot more playing time than Michael Carter, especially with the valuable touches. But Amari Demercado made the big game-losing play for the Arizona Cardinals. You're looking at John Gannon just absolutely destroying him on the sideline, also getting fined $100,000 just for ripping into the running back that fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line and lost the game. Kind of soft, in my opinion, just to fine a coach for yelling at his player for doing one of the most egregious, ridiculous, and just idiotic things that you can do on the NFL football field, and celebrating before you get into the end zone, which ultimately resulted in the Cardinals losing that game. I think the Amari Demercado is going to be getting punished this week. I do think he's going to return. He's still going to getting playing time, but I do think he's going to have a lessened role this week, less valuable carries this week. And if you're going to be leaning on any Arizona Cardinal running back, it's going to be Michael Carter this week, just strictly because you can't trust. I mean, you look at what the Indianapolis Colts did to Adonai Mitchell the week after he did the exact same thing. You just cannot trust a player that does those kind of things, and you're going to have to punish him some way, some form, and this is the week to do it. So we're sitting Amari Demercado, but we're going to be flexing Michael Carter here from the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor is going to be a must start in your lineup, so we're not going to spend much more time on that. Moving on, we do have the Cleveland or the Dallas Cowboys at Carolina Panthers game, the Rico Dowdle revenge game. I think both running backs in this game are going to be solid starts for you. Both running backs do have the ability to just absolutely tear into the defense. Both are going to be extremely solid starters for you. Chuba Hubbard's out with a calf setback this last week. He hasn't been guaranteed out, but he did suffer a setback this week with that calf injury. So Rico Dowdle is going to get that revenge game start against his former team. You look at him posting 32.4 points with a 51% touch share last week, and the Cowboys allow the 6th most fantasy points to get per game to running backs this season. Javonte Williams on the other side of things is getting high usage in a favorable matchup against the Carolina Panthers. The volume is going to be the key for Javonte Williams here. I think both running backs are going to be solid starts, like I said. Now you're looking at Rico Dowdle. Will he get that same 32 points that he did last week? Only time will tell. Now, I don't think it's going to be necessarily as egregious of a week as he had last week, but you are looking at him definitely going to have that ability. Both these running backs have that ability to go off this week, but I think Rico Dowdle is probably going to be the better running back to start in this game. Now, moving on into that very next game, which is going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars, Seattle Seahawks here for you guys. Let's see. Let's pull that graphic up for you. Jacksonville Jaguars, Seattle Seahawks. Travis Etienne is going to be a solid start for you guys. Travis Etienne, he's been getting the volume. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been having a decent enough game script that Travis Etienne has been involved heavily in the game. You're looking at them getting rid of Tanks Big, but you really thought that there'd be some running backs eating into Travis Etienne's production like there has been these last few years, but that just wasn't the case. Getting rid of Tank Bigsby early in things this year, you're looking at Travis Etienne being just a completely solid start for you this week. On the other side of the ball, you're looking at Kenneth Walker being a start. Despite the split in shares with him and Zach Charbonnet, he paces the Seahawks in scrimmage yards per game, and he maintains a solid 42.7% snap rate. The volume's high enough to start him, and on the other end, Zach Charbonnet. If Zach Charbonnet does not get into the end zone, he's not going to have a viable fantasy football game for you this week. I think Zach Charbonnet earns the sitting ability on your bench. He might end up being a shaky flex if he can get into the end zone. He's only seeing 37 scrimmage yards per game. His usage is too low to be a confident start for me this week. And really until one of them gets hurt, I don't really think that either one of them is going to merit full-blown confidence for me in this offense. Now, moving on to the very next game that we got for you guys, we're going to be talking about that Chargers-Miami Dolphins game, and this game is going to be very interesting just strictly due to the fact that we have so many potential running back options that we have in this game. You're looking at Kamani Vidal, you're looking at Hassan Haskins, and then, of course, Devon Achane, who basically should be a must-start at this point, and then you got Ollie Gordon behind him. Ollie Gordon's the only running back of the three that's a guaranteed sit that I'm staying away from. Devon Achane is the only one that's a guaranteed start. He's an elite talent on a high-powered offense with a massive ceiling, and he always can make a great explosive play. On the other end of the ball, you're looking at Hassan Haskins being probably more involved in the passing game, or in the early down work, as we talked about, as Vidal is going to be more involved in the passing game. I don't really think either one of these running backs is going to be enough for me to trust at the current moment. I do think that Vidal has more upside long term than Haskins. The touches are still going to be split. It's a desperation flex with big play potential. I do think that going into this week, you're looking at, like I said, Vidal has more potential long-term, I think, when it comes to this injury to Marion Hampton. But you're looking at Hassan Haskins being the running back that they trust in this offense more. And I think in this first week, they're just going to kind of go with the running back that they trust more, the running back they trust to hand the ball to more. And that's going to be Hassan Haskins. Like I said, it's going to be hard to kind of sift through and pick which one is really going to be the running back that goes off this week. If you have better options, go ahead and start them. But both of them do merit flexibility just with their big play potential and their potential usage in this offense this week. Now, moving on, we got that New Orleans, New England game, which is going to be another one of those games that's going to feature a lot of running backs that we're going to be talking about. It's going to be one of the longest conversations that we have when it comes to the games this week. Of course, Alvin Kamara is going to be a flex for you. He's just really been dwindling. You're looking at Kendre Miller solidly eating into his workload. You're looking at Kendre Miller out touching him in these last few weeks. You're looking at Kendre Miller outscoring him in these last few weeks. Alvin Kamara is still getting involved. He's still Alvin Kamara, still merits flexibility, but I think Kendre Miller may be the better play in this offense at the current moment. You're looking at Kendre Miller being the preferred back, the early down back to Alvin Kamara. He has the goal line potential. He's getting more goal line work than Alvin Kamara. I just really think that Kendre Miller is going to be a more trustworthy flex potential for you. Both of them are splitting carries. Both of them don't really merit much more opportunity than a flexibility for you in your offense, in your fantasy football lineup. But I think Kendre Miller has the scoring opportunity more than Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara does have massive pass catching volume, which gives him the high floor, but the touchdown upside has been capped because of Kendre Miller, which is just kind of lowering him to a shaky flex for you. Not a shaky flex, but less solid than Kendre Miller. And then on the other end of the ball, Ramondre Stevenson, he's been fumbling crazily, but I think that his involvement is going to remain high. The overall offense is going to limit his ceiling, which is why he's just a flex. And then, of course, Travion Henderson eating into his carries also makes him a flex as well. But you're looking at this being a safe floor flex option. Travion Henderson, until one of them gets hurt, I don't really think either one of them is going to merit full-blown trust in my fantasy football lineup. But Henderson is more explosive than Ramondre Stevenson. His role is still evolving. He is a home run threat at all times, which is why he's going to be a shaky flex and not a sit. However, like I said, you're going to have more trust in Ramondre than you can in Travion Henderson. It's touchdown or bust for Travion this week. Moving on to the next game, and we're going into the afternoon games at this point. We're starting to cook. We're starting to cook with Crisco, and most of these last few games we're going to be able to kind of breeze to. Starting with that Tennessee Titans the Las Vegas Raiders, both two of the worst offenses in the league, but two really good running backs in this league as well. So I think that this game is going to be you must start both, not must start, but it's a solid start for both running backs this week. You're looking at Ashton Genty being the more solid start. He says he cemented as the bell cow. 35 attempts and 8 targets on a 63% snap share over the last 2 weeks. The Titans ranked 3rd in the league as worst in fantasy points allowed to the running backs. And then Tony Pollard, another workhorse on the other side of the field. The volume is high. He's a weekly start due to just sheer opportunity, no matter how terrible the Tennessee Titans seem to be. The next one's going to be Rachaad White, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. We're going to be talking about that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game now. Keep in mind, Bucky Irving is going to be out this week. We have already got that confirmation. Bucky Irving's going to be out this week. So really, we're starting Rachaad White. I feel more confident with Rachaad White with him being out this week. And then, of course, you're wondering why I'm not talking about the San Francisco running back. It's because Christian McCaffrey's a must start. We talked about him earlier in the episode. This one's going to be nice and easy, up and down, cut and dry. Rachaad White is going to be getting some decent opportunity. He's got an immense target share this week. It's going to give him a safe PPR floor, even against this tough 49ers defense, who has been banged up and has been kind of susceptible to the run, at least more than they have been in previous years. The volume is really what's going to keep Rachaad White in your lineup this week. Now, moving on, in the next afternoon game is going to be that Cincinnati Bengals, Green Bay Packers. Josh Jacobs is a start player. You're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals defense being just absolutely putrid. You're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals not being able to stop the run. The Packers may not need to have to throw the ball very much in order to take a lead, in order to win this game. On the other side of the ball, Chase Brown, it's just hard to trust the Cincinnati Bengals at the current moment. They did get Joe Flacco earlier this week, which is going to make that offense, it's going to raise everybody's floor. We don't know if Joe Flacco is going to start yet this week, but you would imagine that he would. That's why they traded for him, but he is coming over in 5 days or less. So it's hard to tell what's going to happen with this Bengals offense, but I do know that Chase Brown doesn't merit much more than a flex option. Unfortunately, you probably drafted Chase Brown in the 2nd or 3rd round. There is a world where you have two options above Chase Brown, and you can start them above Chase Brown. But at the current moment, you got to at least keep Chase Brown in your flex, hoping that Joe Flacco truly raises everybody's floor in this offense. Now, I believe that's going to do it for the afternoon games this week. No, I believe we have actually one more afternoon game. The reason I'm not really talking about it too much, Kyren Williams, Derrick Henry, both are going to be big starts for you in this offense, in this game. So don't really need to spend a ton of time for them. You have to start Derrick Henry. You have to start Kyren Williams. Both running backs are going to be must starts basically at this point in the season. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, you got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Detroit Lions in one of the most interesting matchups of the NFL season so far. You're looking at Jahmyr Gibbs obviously being a must-start player. So you got David Montgomery. I'm not very high on David Montgomery this week, but I do think that you really just want to get pieces of this game. This is what I believe it's a 52-point total on the Vegas lines right now. It's going to be a high-scoring game. You just want to get a piece in it. David Montgomery is going to be involved in this game. If David Montgomery doesn't get in the end zone, he at least has a serviceable game, in my opinion, which merits him a flex ability for you. And then it's really going to be the same story for Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. I trust Kareem Hunt more than I trust Pacheco at this point because Kareem Hunt is getting those goal line carries. Kareem Hunt, I believe, is the number 2 running back in the NFL at the current moment. At the current moment for getting that goal line work. He's the monopolist on high value touches at the end of the day, especially inside that 10-yard line. He's seeing 6 goal line touches compared to Isaiah Pacheco's 1. The touchdown upside is absolutely large this week. I expect Kareem Hunt to get in the end zone at least once, maybe twice this week. And then just a little quick thing that we're talking about here. We don't have Brashard Smith up here just because you can't even figure out whether you want to start Kareem Hunt or Isaiah Pacheco. So we're obviously going to be sitting Brashard Smith. But I do think Brashard Smith has also been getting a ton of goal line work as well. And I think Brashard Smith merits the ability to at least look at his touchdown prop when it comes to betting, whether you're looking at FanDuel, whether you're looking at Underdog, whatever it is you place your sports bet. Brashard Smith, I believe it's a plus 370 right now. So you're looking at it being a decently profitable touchdown line at the current moment. Now, wrapping things up, going on into Monday Night Football. Now, we do have 2 Monday Night Football games this week. We're really only going to spend a little bit of time talking about one of them. The first one that we're going to be talking about mainly is going to be the Washington Commanders versus the Chicago Bears. This game, really, you're looking at DeAndre Swift being a starting player, a solid start for you. And then Bill Merritt, we hope last week's breakout game is going to continue to show us why we drafted Bill Merritt earlier this year. And he's starting to come into his own. Last week was an extreme breakout game for Bill Merritt. So you're looking at him having earned that starting ability in your fantasy football lineup. DeAndre Swift also is going to be an obvious start for you as well. Now, when it comes to the back to the other running backs in the committee in Washington, you're looking at Jeremy McNichols. You're looking at Chris Rodriguez. Chris Rodriguez being here in the middle. Chris Rodriguez is going to be the one that has the most opportunity, I believe, to have a better game behind Bill Merritt. If Bill Merritt goes off like he did last week, which running back is going to be the one that has that 1B or at least that 2 role? And I think it's going to be Chris Rodriguez. He's the one that was kind of competing the most for touches with Bill Merritt. So you're looking at him being the one that's why he sits /flex. I want to sit both McNichols and I want to sit Rodriguez as well. But if you have to start a running back in desperation, Rodriguez is going to be the way to go for you. Now, that is actually going to do it for today's episodes. We're not even going to waste our time talking about the other Sunday night football game. You're looking at both the running backs in that game being on our must-start list. So you're looking at that being kind of a waste of everybody's time. So that's going to do it for everybody. Like I said, we have more episodes coming out today. We got more rankings coming out today, more startums and situms coming out today. I've been listening to all your comments. We got more. We got some sleepers coming up this week. We're going to be talking about some more statistical, some deep dives on some more statisticals when it comes to like defense, how wide receivers play against certain defensive coverage, different matchups, things of that nature. So make sure if you haven't yet, you hit that subscriptions bar as well as that notifications bell. I'm going to get out of here, y'all. Make sure you always keep your chin up and your attitude down. Much love. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.